Everybody, and thank you for attending another series of our education training. And again, this is strictly information that we like to share with you all within our community and to our families, folks on active duty, reserve, National Guard, and the like. And so last month, we were able to start our first education series with entering college and how to enter West Point. So this month, we are taking on an education series with counseling and college funding. And so this month, we were able to invite Ms. Jacqueline Rodriguez from the Fort Irwin Education Center, and the idea here is that we would like to put out a lot of information for our families to make sure that that you all are well informed, because we know that we have children that are on the verge of entering college, or you yourself as active duty veterans or a reserve National Guard can maybe take on another opportunity to go back to college. So here I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Rodriguez from Fort Irwin Education Center, and so will go through a presentation. So this should take no more than 1 hour. And if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. Or we'll be also monitoring our Facebook. So if you have any questions on Facebook, just put it in Facebook, and we will monitor that as well. Okay, so Ms. Jacqueline, thank you for joining us, and pretty much the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully, let me see. Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, my name is Jacqueline Rodriguez. I am the Education Services Specialist here at the Fort Irwin Education Center. And thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm happy to share some information with regard to education and some of the counseling, as well as more so deeper information into the college funding. So I do want to kind of start out with, maybe not, it's not moving. Give me a second, I apologize. My screen froze, so I'm not sure. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
So the Fort Irwin Education Center, we are located on Fort Irwin in building 1020 off of 3rd Street. Our office hours are 7:30 to 1600. So if you are in the area, we are still under COVID operations with virtual services. However, if you do come to our building, if we have a counselor available, or if you would like to set up a one-on-one, we could schedule some sort of appointment. Our computer lab is still currently down at the moment, but we are getting some computers back up and going to be able to hopefully get those services up and going. To be able to reach us, you can call our main line at 760-380-4218, or send us an email through that Gmail account simply requesting any sort of counseling services, or if you have some more specific questions with regard to maybe some of the funding options that we're going to discuss today. So I also like to highlight, we actually have some schools that are here on Fort Irwin that have representatives available to speak with service members, family members, and you don't necessarily, just because they are here, that's what service members, family members are limited to. It's just that some individuals like to have an individual that they would like to speak with, work with one-on-one. And so these are a couple of the options, and they provide some additional services as well here at Fort Irwin. So when it comes to the actual services, We will assist soldiers, retirees, family members, DA, DOD civilians, anyone that is in our within our community or affiliated to Fort Irwin. You are welcome to reach out to us. And as you can see on the screen, we provide a variety of services, of course, counseling, whether it be for your career, education, if you're getting ready to transition. That can be a very big transition, especially if you've been wearing the uniform for quite some time and trying to make that adjustment back to civilian world. So there's a lot that's to be considered, and we can help with regard to that education piece. We help with tuition assistance and credentialing assistance when it comes to soldiers. Of course, federal financial aid, scholarships, GI Bill benefits for those who are looking to improve upon their line scores. So there's GT improvement, or the basic skills education program, that is meant to help individuals kind of get transitioned if you're not so confident in going back to school. So getting back to basics with the English, math, etc. That's what that basic skills education class can help with. We have something specific here at Fort Irwin called the DU memo, which is signed by the commanding general, which would allow for soldiers stationed here to get some time off to be able to focus on their educational goals. So if you are affiliated here and seeking or will be taking classes, please make sure you're reaching out with regard to that particular memo that can help you get some time from the duty day that will release you a little bit earlier to be able to focus on those educational goals. As you can see too, you guys have been, you're taking advantage of the briefings that we do provide. I can go on and on about a lot of the information and go into more detail about GI Bill and some of the intricacies, et cetera. Today, we're going to be more doing an overview and touching on some of that stuff, and hopefully dispelling some of the myths as well. So we have a variety of briefings we can provide on some of those things a little more in depth. We do Army personnel testing here as well. So I understand that with those of you who are active duty or reserves all over Southern California, our testing center is open. So if you've got language testing, if you are looking to take that AFCP, we are here to be able to assist you with that. So more specifically with counseling, we really encourage family members, service members, DOD civilians, anybody that's looking to get into or get into their educational path again, to really reach out to us. We are kind of that third party where the only interest we have is seeing that you find what is going to be the right fit for you, whether it be your career, your education. So some of the things we may ask is, what is it that you want to do when you grow up? Things change, and you are a different person from maybe when you first got out of high school, or you've got some young ones that are just like, oh, what do I do? What do I look for? And that's what we're here for, is to kind of help with that exploration. We have some tools to assist with that. Interest profilers we can walk through, and then do some exploration to really determine if the career field that is identified is something that is viable, and something, depending on what are some of those other aspirations, whether it's maybe moving to another area, is that something where that career field is something you'll be able to flourish in, or maybe something that might not be as readily available to get into a career with. So we do a lot of exploration with regard to that, as well as when it comes to the actual educational institution. Have you looked at the accreditation? What is the actual cost? What are some of those things, those determining factors that's really going to make that the best fit for you? And of course, the biggest thing is going to be that funding piece. So that's where that'll transition me into the funding. So as you can see on this graphic here, there are a variety of options when it comes to funding your education. So I've kind of listed it out in somewhat of an order that you would want to minimize that out-of-pocket cost to yourself. So for those, the tuition assistance, grants, scholarships, GI Bill, other, really meaning more so if you can get, you can pay for it out of pocket. And then of course there are those types of loans. So we're going to explore each of these individually. So tuition assistance, those who are wearing the uniform, there is tuition assistance available, and even something called credentialing assistance that's geared more towards those certifications or licenses. So if you're someone that maybe a degree is not up your alley, or you already have your degree and you're looking for something to kind of help you be more competitive, or are in a field that requires some sort of certification or license, we also have something called credentialing assistance that allows $4,000 a fiscal year to pay to, or help you train and pay for that exam. So when it comes to tuition assistance, there is $4,000 a fiscal year for that tuition assistance. If you are combining tuition assistance and credentialing assistance, unfortunately, you're still going to be capped at that $4,000 per fiscal year. When it comes to utilizing this, this is more so for those traditional degree programs. As you can see on the slide here, associates, bachelor's, master's, academic certificates. And there are some special programs. So for individuals who are looking at maybe the IPAP program, some of those AMED programs, a teacher's certification, those would actually qualify under the special programs to request funding under that tuition assistance. And as you can see here, there's certain caps, $250 per credit hour, 16 semester hours per fiscal year. And then they do cap out when it comes to the level of that degree. So now I want to kind of switch gears to the GI Bill. I know this is something that a lot of people, they hear a lot about, and we want to make sure that we clarify very specific things when it comes to the GI Bill. So the GI Bill, you're allotted 36 months of entitlement, a max of 48 when you're combining the programs. And when you say, well, what do you mean by combining programs? There's actually, the GI Bill has two different programs. There's the Montgomery GI Bill, and then the post 9/11 GI Bill. Montgomery is that original GI Bill where soldiers elect to participate and gain that Montgomery GI Bill. So we'll talk a little more in detail about that versus that post 9/11 and what are those differences. You must have an honorable discharge to maintain eligibility of that GI Bill. And really, because they're two different bills, you may only have the one post 9/11, but if you contributed to Montgomery GI Bill, you have the option of utilizing one of those or potentially switching over to the post 9/11. And again, we'll talk a little more about that. Rates are paid based on the rate of attendance, meaning the student status. So if you're full-time, part-time, etc., that can affect the rate in which you are going to be paid. So what does the GI Bill pay towards? On here, you can see there's a variety of training that you can utilize the GI Bill for. And really, you want to make sure that you're identifying an institution that is GI Bill approved. And you can find out a lot of that information right through the va.gov website, or there's also on the screen that's provided the benefits.va.gov site, which is phenomenal in really explaining the various benefits that are available to veterans, to include that breakdown with regard to the education benefit and education programs that are available to veterans. So Montgomery GI Bill, like I mentioned, that is something you would want to or will have opted into, and that only happens during that initial enlistment. You're paying $100 per month in that first year of that enlistment, which maxes out at that $1,200. There's also something called the buy-up program that you can participate in, and that can happen at any point during your enlistment period, where you can contribute up to an additional $600 towards that, where you can get that additional, there's an additional amount of funding depending on how much you contribute to that buy-up program that you can get per month. And there is a table that is on the va.gov website that can show you that breakdown based on how much you contribute if you choose to participate in that buy-up program. You must have 2 years of that active duty service, and this is more so for the active duty Montgomery GI Bill, before you would be able to utilize that Montgomery GI Bill. This does pay a little different. Some people are used to that post 9/11. The Montgomery, the way this works is that you're paid a lump sum of funding, and you're really responsible from that lump sum per month to pay towards the tuition, any sort of educational expenses. You're also going to be responsible for tracking and reporting your attendance so you can maintain that monthly payment that would be coming from the VA to help pay for that schooling. This one does have the cap of 10 years that this would expire after your separation date. So it is a use it or lose it after 10 years. And for some individuals, if you have 2 terms of qualifying service and contributed to Montgomery GI Bill, you could have the opportunity, once you've exhausted the Montgomery GI Bill, to potentially get an additional 12 months under the post 9/11. So the post 9/11, this one is probably the most popular, of course, when it comes to that GI Bill. This is the one that everybody's aware, where the VA pays the school directly. There's that housing allowance that's affiliated with it. You also get a particular book stipend. So of course, when it comes down to the eligibility, this is really based off of active duty service. So if you incur that active duty service, that's how you become eligible for post 9/11. And that's how that's different from Montgomery. You choose to participate and pay into Montgomery GI Bill, whereas your active duty service entitles you to post 9/11, okay? You will get coverage of your tuition based off of tiered levels of once you hit that 3-year mark of active duty service, that's where your state tuition would be fully covered. If you would choose to attend a private or foreign school, that's where those tuition fees have a particular cap, and things like that yellow ribbon program, which I'll talk a little bit about, would come into play. So yellow ribbon program is something where schools choose to participate in. So when there's something like maybe they're a private institution and their tuition is going to be more than what is listed as that cap, a school can come in and say, hey, we're willing to pay this amount of money to help cover that tuition. And then the VA will come in and match that amount, so to help ease that out-of-pocket cost for a particular soldier. So there are certain things where a school can limit the number of yellow ribbon program recipients. And so it is really going to be important that whoever is utilizing that post 9/11 and may need that yellow ribbon program, that they really talk to that school to determine whether that's something that's they will be able to qualify for and utilize. Something new that is affiliated with the post 9/11 GI Bill is the Edith Norris Rogers STEM Scholarship. And so for those who are looking at STEM, so the science, technology, engineering, math type of programs, and you can see on the website the list of degree programs that would fall under this. It must be at an undergraduate level or at a teacher certification, but you could get up to 9 months or $30,000 of added benefits, because these programs tend to take a little bit longer to be able to complete. So that's where the thought process was with this, is to ensure for such a high demand program that those who qualify for post 9/11 would still be able to finish those degrees and have the coverage. Transfer of education benefits. This one is a big one, and there tends to be a lot of confusion around this. Transfer of education benefit, I want to clarify that this is not an entitlement. This is meant as a retention tool. So what that means is that a service member, in order for them to be able to transfer this benefit, they must still be on active duty, and they have to have served a minimum of 6 years and still have 4 years on their contract to be able to transfer those benefits over to the dependents that they do have listed in DEERS. So something where I've had people say, well, I just want to transfer it. I've had service members who are getting ready to get out and they were thinking they were going to transfer. It's very important that individuals who are thinking they want to do this identify very early that this is something that they may want to do and ensure that they meet those minimum qualifications. Where that can be done is the MillConnect website. So that's what I've provided here. And there is the link that specifically states transfer my education benefits. If you do have Montgomery GI Bill and you want to transfer your benefit, that is only available to those who have the post 9/11. So if you have not made that election of if you want to stick with your Montgomery GI Bill or go to post 9/11, if you choose and want to transfer benefits, by going to this website, you are also electing to move over to that post 9/11 benefit. One great thing that is offered on the va.gov website is something called the GI Bill comparison tool. Before you make any sort of elections to, if you do have the Montgomery GI Bill and want to see how that would compare to utilizing the post 9/11 GI Bill, this is a great website. You can make it very personalized with regard to your current status, if it's you, if it's a dependent, if it's post 9/11 Montgomery GI Bill, how many months. You can put in the school, if it's online, in person. There's a lot of great ways where you can personalize this to get a general idea of how that benefit could apply at that particular school. So definitely encourage utilizing that to make that decision. And this is just some basic information about how to apply. What I have done is provided some useful handouts that we provide to our community that we service here on how to apply for the benefits and some scholarship information that Lieutenant Colonel Wen will be able to disseminate to those who are interested in getting that information. So now I'd like to switch gears and go into federal financial aid. And I do have a short video that kind of talks about the different types of federal financial aid that's out there. So I'm going to switch that up a little bit.
Need help paying for college or career school? The Office of Federal Student Aid might be your best option. We offer more than $150 billion to students each year in the form of grants, loans, and work-study funds. And federal student aid can be used to pay for school expenses, such as tuition, room and board, and books and supplies. After you've filled out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, you'll receive an award letter from each school you list on your FAFSA. This letter explains both the federal and non-federal financial aid options that a school is offering you. So let's talk about federal aid. If you qualify for and receive a federal grant, you won't have to repay the money. That will definitely help offset the cost of school, but you may still need additional help. If so, a federal student loan might be your answer. Remember, a student loan is just like any other loan. It's borrowed money that will have to be repaid with interest. If you plan to take out a loan, consider federal student loans first. Compared to private student loans, federal student loans often have lower fixed interest rates and offer many benefits that you won't find otherwise. For example, when it's time for you to repay your federal student loan, your loan servicer can work with you to find the best repayment plan for your individual needs. Plus, you may be able to adjust your loan payments based on your income. You also may be able to defer your federal loan payments, deduct student loan interest on your taxes, and even consolidate your eligible federal student loans into one loan with one monthly payment. Federal loans can even be forgiven based on certain types of employment. Getting a work-study job is another great option to help pay for school. Eligible undergraduate and graduate students will be able to earn at least minimum wage. If you have questions or need assistance, you can contact the financial aid office at your college or career school or visit studentaid.gov for more information.
All right. Try that again. Okay. Let's go back. So just that quick review, grants are probably what a lot of people think about when they complete that free application for federal student aid. It's just that free money to help pay for schooling. And I don't like to use that word free because everything comes with some strings attached with regard to that. So it is important that those who do qualify for those grants, and it is need-based, so the less you make, the more you tend to qualify in those grants. And so you want to, in order to maintain that eligibility, make sure that you're passing those classes, and then also being in touch with your school if you're going to stop going to school, because if you stop middle of the term and there is that disbursement, the government is going to want that return of those funds. There's something also, as you can see in the middle of the screen, called work study if you qualify. So it's another way where you can earn some additional cash to kind of help with paying for school. So if you do have some of those, your kiddos, dependents that are going to be going to school and may qualify for work study, they could find particular jobs that are identified with that school that can help to pay for that maybe room and board, some of those books through a work study program. And then of course, there's the federal student loans. So I've got an additional video to talk a little more about what types of federal student loans are available.
If you've received a financial aid award letter from a college, chances are you've been offered a federal student loan. To help you understand your options, let's take a look at 3 of the most common federal loan types: subsidized direct loans, unsubsidized direct loans, and direct plus loans. All 3 are fixed interest loans, which means that the amount of interest you'll have to pay stays the same until you pay off the loan. The most popular federal loan for undergrads is the subsidized direct loan. Subsidized means that the federal government pays the interest on your loan while you're still in school at least half-time. Meanwhile, with an unsubsidized direct loan, interest starts building up right away. So if you accept an unsubsidized loan, it's a good idea to at least make your interest payments while you're still in school. The government also offers something called direct plus loans. These are very similar to unsubsidized direct loans, but they're offered to graduate and professional students, as well as parents of dependent undergrads. No matter what type of federal loan you choose, be sure to borrow wisely and never borrow more than what you need. And remember, student loans are for your school expenses, not your lifestyle. Visit CompleteFinancialAid.org to learn more about federal student loans.
All right, so as you can see, there's various types of those federal student loans. Subsidized and unsubsidized are pretty common ones. The subsidized is something where, again, that need-based and you're not paying that interest. So that is, if you're going to go with a loan, probably a good one to look at, just to minimize that cost to you, what you're really going to be paying for education. And then of course, there's that unsubsidized that you can see that's available to undergraduate, graduate, professional, regardless of that need. And the interest will be accruing while that loan is out. So again, something to kind of keep in mind when you're evaluating the cost of your education. There's something also called the direct plus loans. And one big difference with that one is that they are going to look at your credit history to determine your qualification for that particular loan. So then what are the steps? What do you want to look at when it comes to that free application for federal student aid? And I want to make sure too, because when people think, oh, if I'm completing that free application for federal student aid, that must mean I'm taking out student loans. And that is definitely not the case. It is encouraged that you do complete that free application for federal student aid so that the school does know where you're at financially. Not only will it help determine kind of the grants that are available to you on the federal side, there could be specific state or institutional scholarships that it could qualify for, you could qualify for. Also, it kind of helps you, again, like I said, with the scholarship programs, et cetera. So there's a lot of other additional information by simply having that student aid report completed. And you make those elections for like the loans, et cetera. Once you've decided on those schools and who you're going to go with, that award letter is where you can go in and actually deny any sort of award of those loans if you're not wanting to do that. So this particular video is just going to talk about some of the things that you can expect when it comes to completing the free application for federal student aid.
The application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is the application for grants, loans, and work-study funds provided by the federal government. It is also used by many states and schools for their financial aid programs. For the fastest and easiest way to apply, visit our official website, fafsa.gov. The FAFSA is available in English and Spanish. As you fill it out online, you'll be able to automatically skip questions that don't pertain to you, check out your status immediately, and get online help. It takes most people less than 30 minutes to complete the application. You'll need a few things when you fill it out, so get ready by gathering your Social Security number, your permanent resident card if you have one, any W-2 forms or records of money you earned for the previous year, and your tax records. By the way, a nice time-saving feature of the FAFSA is that many people are eligible to automatically transfer their tax data from the IRS into the FAFSA, so keep an eye out while you're applying in case you're offered that option. If you have any questions about what information to gather, there is a complete list of documents that you will need at fafsa.gov. Before you begin the process of filling out the FAFSA, you should create a username and password called an FSA ID that will act as your electronic signature. You'll only need to create an FSA ID once, and you can use it to renew your FAFSA each year that you apply. Your parents will need an FSA ID too if they have to provide any information. So now you're ready to begin filling out the FAFSA to apply for financial aid. There are 3 groups of questions that include personal information, such as your name, address, and marital status, financial information, such as your income, and any parent information that is required. If you get hung up or confused about a question, the Help and Hints box on the right-hand side of the application can help with each question as you move along. Also, look for the online chat feature under Help if you would like assistance from a knowledgeable agent. Because colleges and career schools use the FAFSA to provide financial aid, you can list up to 10 schools that you are interested in attending. You should list all of the schools that you are considering, even if you haven't been accepted or applied yet. If you have more than 10 schools in mind, you can submit your FAFSA with 10 schools and then replace some of those schools with other schools later. When you finish filling out the FAFSA, use your FSA ID to sign the form. If you are required to submit parent information on your FAFSA, a parent will need to sign the application with his or her own FSA ID as well. If you have any questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
All right, so I like to bring up some of these really great financial aid resources. So the first one there on the left is the actual studentaid.gov website, where you can get a specific information with regard to grants, the different types of the loans, work study programs. There's a lot of really great information to include specific things even for service members. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has some information with regard to maybe scams that you should be looking out for. And they also have some calculators in there, things just to really help you, again, figure out what is going to be the best fit with regard to funding your education. The third one is going to be the actual application for the FAFSA. And the last one is something I wish that I had been more aware of while I was going through college with that National Student Loan Data System. Once you verify your information, you'll be able to see within that system the types of the grants, the disbursements, what school, and then also the loan information, how much, who's the loan holder, et cetera, with regard to those federal loans. And then you can even check the status of those loans as well, if they're in deferment, et cetera. All right, so now I'm going to get more so into some of the state specific funding. So for those of you that are affiliated with the state of California, this is a great program. It's the College Promise Grant. It is need-based. So again, you want to make sure that you're filling out that free application for federal student aid to see if this is a program that you could qualify for. And what it does is it waives those enrollment fees. So and community colleges tend to be those cheaper options as it is. But if you show that you are in that need, you qualify for Pell Grants. Typically, that could mean you would also qualify for this College Promise Grant with the waiver of those tuitions, fees, and not have to pay for those courses. But of course, you would be responsible for those books. So you definitely want to check out, if you are looking in the state of California, get with the community college to learn more specifically of how that College Promise Grant works with that particular community college. One great program for those who are veterans that are here in the state of California is something called CalVet. I encourage you to check out and see what are some of those specific benefits to you for being here in the state of California as a veteran. One of those is something called the College Fee Waiver. So they have 4 different plans in which you could, the dependents, I should say, of the veterans could qualify for those college fee waivers. And what that means is that those enrollment fees at community colleges, the California State University System schools, as well as the University of California schools, you can have that tuition waived. Of course, again, those room and board, the books, the parking is still something you would be responsible for, but those tuition, those enrollment fees could be waived for you. And definitely recommend going to that calvet.ca.gov website to take a look at those 4 plans to determine where you would be at to see if your dependents could have a waiver of that tuition. Those of you who may not reside, let's say in California, you're going to be going and residing in a different state, I do encourage you to check out the myarmybenefits.us.army.mil website. And on there, you can see there is a link that it states benefit library. You can go to federal, but also state specific. And it gives you a map, as you can see here, and you can click on a particular state and it will give you a rundown of all of the types of benefits that are specific to veterans and their dependents in that state. And so, perfect example, state of Texas, very veteran friendly. They have the Hazelwood Act. So something where if you enlisted while you were a resident in Texas, you could be eligible for an additional 150 credit hours at a state school once you've exhausted any sort of VA benefits that are education benefits that are available to you. So I believe there is a couple other states that have some sort of a similar program like the one here in California, the CalVet, the Texas. So would encourage you check out some of those different states to see what types of maybe education benefits that the state may have for veterans and or those dependents. Now I want to get into some of those additional non-federal grants and scholarships. So scholarship funding, you can see there's a variety of ways that you can qualify for scholarships. Hobbies, military affiliation, community activities, your academic achievement. So what I have provided to Lieutenant Colonel Wen is a listing of some of the scholarship, I guess, hubs where you can put in some of your information and it will populate some of the scholarships that you could qualify for, as well as a listing of military affiliated, dependent affiliated, and some general scholarships that could be available to you. And then again, I've got a video just with some tips on what you should be looking or doing when it comes to looking for those scholarships.
Apply for college scholarships? That's great, but maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by the process. Not to worry, let's break it down into 4 simple steps. Step 1, get organized. Set up a system to track your progress, a spreadsheet, notebook, or calendar. Then build backwards, starting with the final due date and including deadlines for recommendation letters, essay drafts, and the date by which you need to request school transcripts. If you organize everything now, you won't have to cram the day before the application is due. Step 2, if you know you need letters of recommendation, start asking people who know you and who can speak to your work to write them for you. Remember, you want to seek out teachers, counselors, and former employers. Friends and family members can't write your letters. Step 3, get working on your essay. Careful, you can't submit the same essay for every application, but this doesn't mean you have to write each one from scratch. Tailor your essays to suit each organization offering scholarships. Ask a friend or teacher to read over your drafts. Step 4, proofread everything. And don't miss deadlines. Scholarship committees are looking for ways to cut down the hundreds of applications they have to read through. No need to make it easy for them to disqualify you by making careless mistakes. Learn more about applying for scholarships at completefinancialaid.org.
So again, scholarships are another great opportunity if you are finding yourself with a gap to pay for your schooling. There can be very specific, again, institutional scholarships that they will award you, and you'll see those on those financial aid award letters. You will need to accept those funds from them. Then, of course, there are the ones that you go out and search for. Some of them have a very simple application where you just fill in the information about yourself, or you may have to complete some sort of an essay, get those letters of recommendation, and you want to make sure you are very diligent, again, with those deadlines. If you miss a deadline, many of those scholarships, I should say, are annual types of scholarships. And you don't want to necessarily write yourself off that that's something that it would be awarded to someone else. There are plenty of times where people have that thought and end up missing out on that opportunity because there are only a few people who have applied for that scholarship. So if you find that you do qualify, you should just definitely go for it, fill out the application, complete the essays, put it in there, and just kind of see if that funding could be awarded to you. One particular scholarship program I do want to highlight is for spouses. It is the MyCAA scholarship, and that provides up to $4,000 of tuition assistance. So that doesn't go towards, it can't be used towards books, some of those fees. It is meant specifically for that training. And it is for spouses of active duty service members E1 to E5, W1 to W2, and O1 to O2. And it can be not just for, let's say, the associate's degree. If you are pursuing a license certificate towards certifications, if there is like a graduate certificate, those are some of the things that this funding can be utilized for. And this is what the website looks like. The MySECO, the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities, has a lot of great resources for spouses. So I do encourage spouses to go onto that website and take some time for yourself to explore. There is some great tools to help with identifying a career, what you should be doing, maybe taking a look at some of the schools. And if you are looking for maybe that one-on-one career counseling or mentorship, there is a phone number you can get some of that coaching and get that MyCAA account established. And I've listed that here for you as well to get some of that set up for yourself. And of course, I do want to make sure I do talk about private loans. This is something where we want to say that this is absolutely the last resort. And for those who are affiliated with the military, we would like to, at all costs, try to avoid those private loans. And as you can see on this screen, there's a lot of reasons why to avoid that. A lot of the times it requires a cosigner. There's there can be the variable interest rates. It's just, there's a lot where if you end up utilizing a private loan, you will end up paying way more for your education than intended. So bottom line, to graduate with less debt, it is going to be important. You want to be able to talk with a counselor. Again, here at the Education Center, we have the ability to kind of work with you, talk with you with respect to your particular situation, and talk about things of, is it best to start out with a community college? Have you already done some schooling that you want to look at transfer credits? And for those of you that have military service, you should definitely be looking at those JSTs, your joint service transcript, to have those evaluated by the schools that you're looking at to see if you can save some time and money by having your military training transfer over towards some college credit. Also, another great way to save some time and money is credit by exam. So you can see on here, I have CLEP and DSST, and that currently is free to service members. So on through the Dante's website, there's actually a page that talks about CLEP and helps you go to the website to register for a military account. And you can go ahead and register for an exam and get that test voucher and some study materials for free. And some popular, you can see also through that Dante's website, some of those exams that have very high passing rates. There is like an English composition CLEP exam that's worth 6 credits. So or if you speak a foreign language, there is a Spanish CLEP exam as well. So some great opportunities within that credit by exam to look into. We are here at Fort Irwin. We have a test proctor that can currently service members for completing that CLEP and DSST, and that is hosted by Barstow Community College. They have the National Testing Center. So for those of you who are in around the Fort Irwin area and you are interested in that credit by exam, please reach out to us. We can get you the information so that you can save yourself some time and money when it comes to your schooling. Also, you want to make sure that you're identifying and asking that question if you're going to be charged in state versus out of state. For California, if you've got your orders, you can fill out specific paperwork and they will get you that in-state rate of tuition. And then again, final note is that when you are looking at or thinking about loans, that does definitely add up, and you will be ending up paying more out of pocket for your education, and you will have to repay those back. And then just some final notes too. Anytime you're dealing with money, there's going to be people who are going to be out to try to get your money. So I like to just do some friendly reminders. Make sure you're going to those correct websites. I've shared the specific websites for you. I've heard of people going to like Fafsa.com and they'll be charged. I mean, it may be a nominal fee, $50, but it's a free application. So you want to be mindful and making sure that you are going to those right websites. And when you start to do those searches and you start entering in your information, wanting additional info from maybe a school, your information could be shared, and then you could get just slammed with calls from people trying to get you to sign up or pay for someone to look into scholarships for you. And there's no reason for those things. You can certainly get those services for free, have assistance through the education center, through a lot of the state schools, et cetera, from the financial aid departments, to not really have to pay for those types of things. And then, of course, you want to be mindful, again, not of the websites you are going on and sharing that information, because that is an easy way to open yourself up to identity theft. So that kind of brings me to the end of my presentation. So I kind of would like to just open it up to you guys. Was there certain questions, things that maybe as the information that I went through that brought up some questions, or you would like for me to kind of address for you?
Well, thank you, Ms. Jacqueline. That was very informative. I see well, in my mind, there's a lot of questions that, but you did gracefully compiling all of these information into a 50-minute presentation. I think that was really great. I think most of these topics can stand alone with its own, specifically the FAFSA form. I think that can be in its own class, and other programs that can be in standalone. So we do have one question.
Okay.
So far. Also, just want to let you know that on Facebook we can have up to 8 viewing at this time.
Okay.
And then here we do have a few. So one question is asked is, can we use TA for a second degree, for example, a second master?
For a second master, so already have a master's degree, looking to do a second master's degree. Is that
correct?
Okay. So unfortunately, no. Tuition assistance, once you have that master's degree, you can only move on to like the next level. And unfortunately, doctorate is not where you can utilize tuition assistance to pay for that doctorate level. But what I would encourage that individual is to think about or look into utilizing credentialing assistance. That's a great program to look at, maybe if there is some sort of industry certification or license that can help them, be competitive. And those are very, they translate very well into the civilian world. So if you're going to put yourself out there and there's maybe another veteran who has like similar credentials as you, having that sort of like certification or license under your name, stating that I am proficient, I am a master in this area, can set you apart and also help you kind of negotiate a better salary as well for that particular position.
Right, and certification, you mean like PMP certifications?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
So,
right.
And thank you for bringing that up, because there is a difference. An academic certificate versus an actual industry certification. An academic certificate is going to be more so where you take a series of classes that helps you gain an understanding of a field. So perfect example, graphic design. A community college may offer an academic certificate in that particular field. The way that you're going to tell the difference is that once you finish a particular training, there is some sort of an exam that you would complete at the end. So perfect example, the IT field, right? There's a huge growth in information technology. So one of the initial areas that people can start in is like the CompTIA, the A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. So you take some trainings that could take as little as 6 months. You take the industry exam, you pass that, and now you've got that particular credential you can put next to your name, and that you have passed that, stating that you're proficient, you have knowledge, and you know what you're doing when it comes to the IT field.
That's great. That's great. And I know those are really invaluable as well. We do have a comment on our Facebook page. Is one of the viewers says, thank you for answering the question about the Hazelwood Act and the Post 9/11 from Texas. So that was great.
Great. Yeah, that's phenomenal. When I heard about that, I'm like, wow, 150 credits. That is great. I mean, that's after you've utilized any VI benefits. So when Texas is veteran friendly, I'm like, they are veteran friendly out there.
Okay, so we do have another question here. It says, when a service member has reached 36 month post 9/11 GI Bill, can that service member extend for another 12 months?
So they have they only have the post 9/11. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are someone that has then you don't, it's really a combination of two different types of benefits. So if you only qualify for post 9/11, you are limited to the 36 months. Now, one program that I did not mention is something called VRNE, which if you are a transitioning service member, and you get some sort of a disability rating, there could be some additional training that you could qualify for, and you would get with a vocational rehabilitation counselor to determine if that is something of a program where you could, in utilizing your post 9/11, get some additional months of training through that VRNE program, Chapter 31.
Perfect. Thank you. And so let's see, going on a few more. Does the MyCAA $4,000 pays for a CPA review course or a CFP certificate?
That's a great question. I'm not clear on all of the programs, and that's where I would definitely recommend that individual go to the MyCAA site to see, and then also be in touch with the career counselors through that MyCAA program, because they are definitely the subject matter experts on the programs and maybe specific schools or training that could be available for some of the programs.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going down to the questions here. How long does the post-GI 9/11 GI Bill still be eligible after you have transferred to your children?
Great question. So when it comes to your kiddos, they can start utilizing that at 18, and then they must use it by the age of 26, if that helps. So there is kind of that, when it comes to their age, they have to have utilized it by the age of 26. I do want to say, for those who have separated, I believe, I have to double check, after 2011, there was something called the Montgomery Act. So it is called the Forever GI Bill, and that is something for the service member, that those benefits do not expire. So those who separated before that timeline, unfortunately, still have that 15-year where it's like you either use it or lose it after 15 years. But with that Montgomery Act, service members have separated after 2011. It's yours to keep forever.
Okay, perfect. Good. Let's see. Next is, what happens when the vet contributed to the GI Bill, the Montgomery GI Bill, and the post 9/11 GI Bill? I guess so. Let's see. So that vet has both programs.
Okay. So if you have both, then you have the option of choosing which benefit you want to utilize. And so that's why I had kind of mentioned about the GI Bill comparison tool. Some people think that while they're on active duty, they have to make the election of which benefit they're going to use before they get out. And that's not the case. Once you have kind of established, and again, worked with counselors, talked about it with family members about what it is that you're going to do or need, and the career path that you're going to go on, and the training that you need, you want to take a look at and see, okay, if I'm going to move on to the post 9/11, then what's going to happen is you are relinquishing, you're giving up the Montgomery GI Bill. And what happens is, once you have exhausted those 36 months, every single day of those 36 months under post 9/11, then you can get back that $1,200 that was initially invested into that Montgomery GI Bill, minus some of those taxes, since it was something that was taken before it was taxed for income.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so next question. For a reservist or National Guardsman, if they are not qualified for the post 9/11 GI Bill, what is another program that is available to them?
I'm sorry, good. Repeat that question again.
So for a reservist or National Guardsman, if they are not qualified for the post 9/11 GI Bill, what is other program available for them?
So I would say if they don't qualify because they don't have that active duty service, if they've got if they've elected towards the Montgomery GI Bill, you can also, for National Guardsmen, you can look at the state benefit. Many states for National Guard waive the tuition for National Guardsmen. So that's something to look at as well for state schools or scholarship opportunities. So I know that like the post 9/11 is great to have, and if you don't qualify for that right now, definitely maybe or look at something along the lines of the state specific and seeing if there is that tuition waiver for National Guard.
Okay, thank you. And then so how questions is how can you maximize FAFSA?
Maximize.
Right.
So are we talking about the grant?
Maximizing the benefit. I guess when a student submitted the FAFSA form, mm-hmm. how can that student or the family can maximize the awards?
Okay, so it's definitely, and really, if you've applied to different schools, and you don't have to, you can use that as leverage to compare. Like, so when you apply to different schools and you get accepted to various schools, you could get various different award letters letting you know, like, hey, this particular school may be providing you specific institutional scholarships on top of the grants, et cetera. And then looking at some of the other, maybe if you've got the transfer of the education benefits. So you can definitely, before you make that election and set foot into and accept or make the election to go with a particular school, that is a great way to compare those award letters to see what school is going to offer that particular, the best, I guess, funding package available to you with maybe some of the particular scholarships and work study programs, et cetera. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. So I guess it isn't, I guess first you pick the school, the major, and then you apply for the FAFSA. When a small school may give you less, or a larger school may give you more, depends on what major that you want to go into.
No, not necessarily. So I guess let me clarify. So you definitely, FAFSA, completing the FAFSA, and then having an idea of the schools that you do want to apply to, just so that you can put them into the application so that they can get the student aid report. If you don't know what schools that you want to go to right off the bat, that is totally okay. You can always go back into that application and add those schools so that they get that aid report. So if you want to get an idea first and foremost of what you qualify for, if you are going to get that full Pell Grant eligibility. So there is an amount that the government says, and you'll have to forgive me, I haven't looked at the website as of recently. It was close. It was like just over $5,000 per academic year that's available. And it's a sliding scale. It's not an all or nothing sort of deal. So they look at the what they call, they do this calculation in the estimated family contribution, and then take a look and say, okay, based off of the information you provided, we would provide you this amount in the Pell Grants. And so it's not something that they will disperse as a lump sum, like, great, $5,000. It's actually going to be depending on the type of school. So if it's semester based, you'll get half of it for the fall term, and then the other half will be dispersed in the spring term, okay? So, and it is something where it's released typically to the school. And then if everything's paid on the account, then the excess funds are then released to the beneficiary or the student.
The students, right? Yes. Okay.
So then that way they can use that, for books or any of those educational expenses that they have.
Okay. So I do have one more. I think we do have time for one more.
Okay.
So how much active duty time a reservist guard must incur to be eligible for post 9/11 GI Bill?
Right. So it is based off of that active duty time. So we encourage individuals, you can reach out. I believe there is a GI Bill hotline phone number that you can reach out to, or so reservists and National Guardsmen, they have an education center that they're affiliated with. They can get some more detail on, but it is based off of active duty service time. So if you've got let's say 6 months or more, I believe they've hit now because it's at a tiered level. Once you hit 6 months, that is 50% of your tuition, 50% of the housing allowance, and then 50% of that book stipend. And then as that time gets closer, and then up to that, once you hit that 3-year mark of active duty service, that's that 100% tier level.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ma'am. So I believe that is the last of the questions. I don't see any more on here and also on Facebook. So I think we can successfully conclude our session today. But again, thank you, Ms. Jacqueline, for your knowledge. And again, this is vast information from here is invaluable. And certainly everyone that participated in here actually get a lot of information and planning for the families and for themselves as well. Again, do you have any last word for our viewers? Because right now they're almost everywhere.
So whatever it is, education is important. Whatever it is, if a degree isn't, there are ways to improve yourself, open those opportunities, whether it's your goal of advancing in the military, if it's preparing yourself for that eventual transition from the uniform back into the civilian world. When it comes to your kiddos, there's so many opportunities, and that education is a foundation. I definitely want to encourage, do not hesitate. Please reach out to us. We have, as you can see, a fountain of information, and it can be very overwhelming. Just seeing this and hearing, and there's just so many things that can be very specific to you and what your needs are. And I can't say it enough. It is very important that you talk to a counselor. We are, again, that third party where we can, we're not necessarily going to have an interest as a school who's just trying to get you to enroll with us. So we're here to really in the best interest of you. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us so that we can help you evaluate and make the best decision when it comes to those educational goals. Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ma'am. So again, thank you for your time and your effort in putting together a presentation. I know I've asked a lot, but thank.
Sounds good, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, ma'am. So that team. So that's conclude our session this evening, and we'll post our next topic for our next month education series probably next week. So tune in. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
And have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.